What's up, everybody? My name is Kier, and you are watching the important things that really matter. Today, we're going to go into part 2 of the child support hustle. And are your children really your children? Today, what we're going to be talking about, before we go into it, would you please like, would you please subscribe, and would you please share this video with other people? Because it's extremely, extremely important that you share this video with other people. So anyway, as I was stating before in the previous video, one of the things that you need to understand very, very clearly is that I don't care who you have a child by, whether it's your girlfriend, whether it's your wife, you better get a DNA test on all of your children. There was a guy that I had worked with at one time, and this guy was talking about his kids. It was really interesting. He was telling me that his hair was one color and his wife's hair was the same color, and child come out with a different color hair. And I don't think he bothered to check in to see if the child was his or not. But this is one indication to let you know the child may not be yours. A guy in Africa, a husband and a wife. Now they are both dark-skinned Africans. Dark brown. Kid come out high yellow, almost looking like the kid was white. And the guy is like, "Oh, this is a blessing." And I'm like, dude, you better go get a DNA test. Now, don't get me wrong. Two dark-skinned African males and females can produce a child that looks like it's white. But the child in those particular cases may be what you would call an albino. So two dark-skinned people can produce a light-skinned person. But if that child is not an albino, and there's not that many kids, not many family members that may be light-skinned, I would have went ahead and got a DNA test real quick when I seen that kid. But hey, I don't know whether he did it or not. But these are examples of where you may want to say, let me go check. Regardless of whether the kid looks like you or not, I suggest that every single solitary man, whether you are married or whether you are not, get a DNA test as soon as you can, because based upon the state that you live in or what country you live in, you have certain time constraints to be able to do that. And if you don't do it within that particular time period, you'll be on the hook for a child that may not even be yours. I have heard reports that in France, I don't know how true this is, but I had heard reports that in France, you are not even allowed to get a DNA test on your own kids to see if they're theirs or not. So I'm kind of thinking that this may have been a big, serious problem in France for a long time, of men finding out that their children were not their children. So this is what I heard about what happens in France, that it may even be against the law for a man to be able to see if his children are his and getting a DNA test on his children. But if I'm wrong, somebody please tell me, but that's what I have heard. One of the things that people get caught up in the child support hustle that you may have to make adjustments to is stop telling people what you do. You know, I was an industrial engineer working for one of the big 3 automobile companies. So I was an automotive engineer, I was an industrial engineer, and I worked very closely with advanced manufacturing and bringing new vehicles into the plant where I worked at. So I worked very close with advanced manufacturing. I also had responsibilities for day-to-day activities in my area of responsibility. I made it a point not to tell hardly nobody, especially a woman, what I did for a living. Because sometimes you tell a person you're an engineer, all of a sudden you'll see the dollar signs in their eyes. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Engineer? Ooh, yeah, let's talk. Yeah, you kind of tell they plotting, planning, and scheming on making sure you get them pregnant. That'd be a nice check every month for the next 20 years. Remember what I stated before, from 0 to 18, and that only covers from 0 to 18, is going to cost a little bit over $300,000 to take care of a child, especially if the child is not yours. I don't know about you, but I could use an extra $300,000 in my pocket. There are people out here that want a check, and some people will determine who is in a position to set them up for a nice check for the next 20 years every month. So if I was you, I would not tell people what I do. I would be general. Like for myself, I didn't tell people I was an engineer. I may have said, I work in the auto industry. And even then, maybe I shouldn't even said that I worked in the auto industry, because a lot of people will figure that if you work in the auto industry, you're probably making good money. So if you have a good paying job to begin with, I suggest to you that you be general about what you tell people that you do for occupation. Because there are people that, based upon your occupation, all they gotta do is turn around, go in the bathroom and Google what is the salary range of somebody with your occupation. So do you really want somebody to be with you because you got a good paying job? Also too, do you want somebody to be with you because you got a real nice car? You don't want nobody to be with you based upon some material things. You want somebody to be with you because they love you, okay? So don't tell people what you do. Be general about what you do, to where nobody can really go back and Google your occupation and what your salary range is, okay? Also too, people can set you up for a fall, big time. And I'm gonna tell you what happened to me. What happened to me one time was I was working in a plant, and at this particular point in time, I was a supervisor in a V6 engine assembly line. As a supervisor in this V6 engine assembly line, I had a supervisor that wanted me to meet his daughter. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll meet her. So anyway, I went and met the woman. She was a nice looking woman, very nice looking woman. And so I made a mental note to keep my hands to myself. Not that I have a problem in keeping my hands to myself, but I most definitely made a mental note. Do not, make sure you take extra special effort in not touching this woman, because this woman is your supervisor's daughter. You can find yourself in a whole lot of trouble. So anyway, I went to see the woman. She was a nice looking woman. So when I went over this woman's house, she said, why don't you come upstairs? I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. So I came up the stairs, and she wanted to lay on the bed and watch television. I was like, okay, no problem. So I got on the bed, and I was on the top comforter. She was on the top comforter. And so we watched television and we talked. We didn't do anything. And I was just getting to know her as a person. She was a nice looking woman. Just getting to know her. I was keeping my hands to myself. Didn't touch her, nothing. So after we finished spending some time together, I called her maybe a couple of days later afterwards to see how she was doing. She never really returned my phone call. So I was like, hey, no problem. She didn't return my phone call, no big thing. So let me tell you what ended up happening. So I went back to work. I talked with the supervisor. Yeah, I got a chance to meet your daughter. She's a nice girl. We talked a while, and she's a nice person. I called her a couple of times, and I never did really hear anything from her. So, hey. So anyway, a few months later, my supervisor, this was a couple of months later, it may have only been maybe a month or so later, my supervisor calls me into the office. I'm like, hey, how you doing today? So I'm doing all right. He said, hey, my daughter's pregnant. Your daughter is pregnant. So I'm like, dude, it wasn't me. I kept my hands to myself. I didn't touch your daughter at all. He's like, yeah, it's probably your kid. Like, hey, it's not my kid at all, because I didn't touch your daughter. All I did was I went over there. We talked. We got to know each other. I called her afterwards. She didn't return my phone call. So I'm like, cool, no problem. I just kept it moving. Okay. And so he was like, yeah, you probably the father of her child. I'm like, no, I'm not, because I didn't touch your daughter at all. So anyway, the months progressed. As the months progressed, my supervisor said, hey, my daughter wants you to call her. I'm like, what does she want to call me for? I thought you said she was pregnant. Well, she wants you to call her. So I'm like, okay. So I called. I said, how you doing? You all right? I'm fine. How you doing? I'm doing okay. Yeah, I heard you were pregnant. Yeah, I'm pregnant. She said, yeah. So she wanted me to talk to her. So I'm thinking to myself, why you want me to talk I'm thinking to myself, why do you want me to talk to you when you're pregnant with some other guy's baby? But she wanted to talk to me. The reason she wanted to talk to me because I had the good paying job. I was a supervisor in the engine assembly plant. So seeing that I had the good paying job, she wanted me to pick up the slack and start talking to her. Well, she had the opportunity to talk to me before, but when I first called her, she didn't return my phone call. So I was like, no biggie, I kept on moving. Well, now she really wants to talk to me because now she's getting bigger, and she probably realizing the guy that got her pregnant probably didn't have a good paying job, probably had a low paying job, not enough money to be able to take care of her or support her or anything along those particular lines. So she wants to look at me because I have the good paying job. But I wasn't about to take that responsibility on because I knew it would be a lot of money. So I said hello to her and everything, and I didn't call her no more. And so I guess a month or so later after that, the father, who was my supervisor, called me into the office again. Hey, yeah, my daughter, she wants you to call her. I said, why does she want me to call her? Didn't you say she was pregnant by some other guy? So she was like, hey man, you ought to see what she looked like now, even though she's pregnant. Yeah, her butt got bigger and she got bigger in all the right places. I'm like, so I'm thinking to myself, I'm not about to take on the responsibility of somebody else's kid just because the daughter's butt then got bigger and her breast may have gotten bigger. So what? It's not my financial responsibility. So anyway, what is the point that I'm making? I think that my supervisor's daughter may have already been pregnant before I even got over there. But she was probably pregnant by a Pookie or Ray Ray type of guy that didn't have hardly anything going for him. So her father and her decided, since I had the good paying job, that I should take the responsibility and pick up that loose ball that's running around that Pookie and Ray Ray couldn't pick up because they weren't doing anything with themselves. So what is the point? The point that I'm making is there are a lot of people that try to run little slick little games on you. They'll get pregnant by somebody else, but that somebody else that they got pregnant by may not have the financial ability to be able to take care of them and a baby. So they're going to look at you with the good paying job to come along and try to pick up the slack because she made a bad decision. No one is going to take responsibility for the bad decisions that they made, but they want you to pick up the ball. The point that I'm saying, this is extremely important that you always get a DNA test, because if it's a woman that you're just seeing, you don't know how many people that woman is screwing around with. You do not know how many people that woman is screwing around with. There was a woman. This woman went to one guy and said, hey, you're the father of my baby. So the first guy she went to made the most money. They went down and did a DNA test. Now this man is thinking that this woman is his woman. Goes and gets a DNA test done. He's not the father. So now the man's got documentation showing that she was screwing around on him. Oh, so you're screwing around on me, and I have paperwork right now showing that you screwed around on me because it's showing me that this baby is not even mine. So you have a nice day. So she took the second guy that she was screwing around with. Same thing. He found out he wasn't the father either. She took the third guy that she was screwing around with down to get a DNA test. He wasn't the father either. So he dumped her too because, oh, now I have documentation you were screwing around. She took a fourth guy down to get a DNA test. He wasn't the father either. So this woman, in a 2-week period, screwed around with over 5 men. So this woman had been screwing around with over 5 men and juggling these men, and each one of these men thought that she was their woman until she got pregnant, and they went and did a DNA test and found out all of these men did not know that she was screwing around on them. And this is the big reason why you always want to get a DNA test. And when you got some of these rappers that's up here, female rappers that's encouraging women to go out there and have a hot girl summer, these rappers, female rappers that's encouraging women to go out there and have fun and live your best life. Who cares how many men you screw around with? Girl, have fun. This is the reason why you always want to check to see, to get a DNA test to make sure that the child is your child and that you are not spending money on a child that is not yours. So this is part 2. Look at these videos here. Also go back and look at the videos on the real purpose of dating and what you should look for in a mate. Go back and look at those videos, because those videos will go into specifics of the things that you should be looking for as a man, or the things that a woman should be looking for as a woman. My name is Kier. Peace.